Okay, so here we have the Unit 2 test review over solving equations. And so let's get started. So with number 1, and with all of these really, we have to remember that when it comes to solving equations, the entire time we are trying to get the variable by itself. That's the name of the game. We got to get it by itself. And so if we also don't remember from class today, we are going to start out with one-step equations, and as we move further and further into the test, they are going to develop into multi-step. But for right now, these first few, there's going to be one step, and after that step, we will get our answer. So I'm going to rewrite number 1. We have 435 equals negative 15b. And the thing that I like to do, and I'm going to do, and I know it's a little bit more difficult for the test tomorrow with the pencil, but if you guys have a highlighter, is to always identify the b, or the variable that you're trying to get by itself. And when we look at this one, we have the b, and in order to get it by itself, we have the negative 15 that's attached with it. And when they are combined like they are, this is the same thing as that negative 15 getting multiplied by b. And so when it comes to solving equations, we always have to undo operations through their opposites. And so when it comes to multiplication, if we want to undo that, the opposite is going to be division. So in order to get b by itself, we are going to divide this entire thing by the coefficient or the negative 15. Whatever number is in front of your variable, just remember the name of the game is getting that variable by itself. And what we do to one side, we've got to do to the other. So when you have a negative 15 over a negative 15, that's the same thing as 1, and 1b is the same thing as simply b. So we're going to bring that b down. Those will cancel out. And so at this point, all we have to do is take this 435 and divide it by that negative 15. And we can always do that with our calculator, and we always should. So 435 divided by negative 15 gives us negative 29. So b is going to equal negative 29, and that is choice A. And so for number 2, we have, I'm going to rewrite it once again, negative 35 equals r minus 15. Now this one is a little bit different because this time we have an operation, and that operation is minus, and it is in between the 15 and the r. So when they're not attached like that, they are not being multiplied. So in order to get rid of that negative 15 or minus 15, we got to do the opposite, and the opposite of subtracting 15 would be adding 15. But we have to always remember what we do to one side, we have got to do to the other. And so once we do that, if we have a negative 15 and a positive 15, that's what we consider opposites. So we're going to cancel those out, and that's what gives us that r by itself. So that r is going to come down, and then all we got to do is do the math, and we can always do that with our calculator once again. So we have negative 35 plus 15, and our answer is going to be negative 20, and that one is choice C. And so remember, we can always double check ourselves by taking our answer, which is negative 20, and plugging that in for r. And so when we do that, we get negative 20 minus 15, and we should always get whatever it's equal to. So in this case, you see here, we get negative 35, and if we were to plug in negative 20 up here, minus 15, we would get negative 35. And so therefore that makes this true, and so therefore this is a solution, and we have checked our answer, and we know for 100% that we are correct. So as we move down to number 3, they are a little bit different into where it's not just going to be one easy step, and then after that we're going to have our answer. With this one, we have a negative 2n and a negative 6n. So this time we have two variables, n and n, And so what that means is we have like terms. So those n's make those -2 and that -6 like terms. So what we have to do with like terms is we have to combine them. And remember, when we're talking about combining, we're just talking about adding. So this really would be -2 and plus a -6 n, because combining is the same thing as adding. So -2 plus -6 is going to give us -8n. So then we bring down this -8, -8 equals -8n. So then this goes back to problem number 1. We have a -8 and it's attached to an n. In other words, a product, so they are being multiplied. So in order to get n by itself, we divide by -8 to undo that multiplication. Those cancel out. And then we have -8 over -8, which we know from what we've talked about on number 1 with canceling, that when we have a -8 over a -8, we're going to get 1. But just to double check, we could still type -8 divided by -8 into our calculator, and it will also tell us 1. And so that is going to be choice C. So for number 4, we have a very similar problem. The only difference on this one is the variable is m, and we are simply adding these. There are no negatives involved. So we have 4m plus 3m equals 14. And since we have like terms, we just combine them. So it's just simply 4 plus 3. And so we get 7m equals 14. And then going back to problem number 1 once again, 7 and the m is the same thing as multiplication. So in order to undo that, we have to divide. The 7's cancel out. So we're left with that m, which is what we want. So we bring it down, and then we just do the math in our calculator. So we have 14 divided by 7, and that gives us 2.